Welcome into the grind, a sports podcast. This one is going to be Minnesota Sports Edition because I am a big Minnesota sports fan. Today, I want to explain to you why JJ McCarthy is a baby. You heard me right. JJ McCarthy is a baby within the Minnesota Vikings system. I'm going to tell you why. B-A-B-Y. But first, let me tell you about 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis because they transformed our bathroom in 48 hours. The entire thing. We had an old, disgusting, moldy, blue bathroom. Tiles disgusting and falling apart and mildew everywhere. Outdated, unhealthy. 5-Star Bath Solutions in Minneapolis remodeled our entire bathroom and made it healthy in 48 hours. New floor, new bathtub, new shower surround, new shower head. We went from a single to a double sink, new vanity countertops and mirror. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis did that for us and it will do it for you. Contact them today for your free consultation. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. All right, let me explain to you why JJ McCarthy is a baby. The Minnesota Vikings this season are in a very interesting spot because they have a Super Bowl roster ready around McCarthy. They've got the running backs. They've got the offensive linemen. They've got the defensive linemen. They've got the secondary receivers, if they come back healthy, if they ever come back at all. And by all means, it appears they have a head coach that can get them to the big game. One thing that is clear is that the Vikings are not going to let McCarthy run before he can prove that he can crawl. And let me explain what that means. McCarthy is not going to be handed the keys to the Vikings offense so that he can do whatever he wants and go wherever he wants. But McCarthy is more so going to be strapped inside a car seat within the Vikings offense, and the Vikings offense is going to carry him at first. The Vikings are going to be heavily reliant on Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. The Vikings are going to be heavily reliant on play action game and dump offs. The Vikings are going to rely not on McCarthy's arm to win them games in the very beginning. They are going to do everything in their power to make sure that McCarthy can gradually ease into the Vikings offense. And I think that's the right decision. I don't think you want to put McCarthy in versus Chicago and have him throw the ball 35 to 40 times. I don't think you want to rely on McCarthy's arm to carry you through the first 3 weeks of the NFL regular season. Because, one, this is his first time starting in the league. He's essentially a rookie. You don't want to put that kind of pressure on him. And two, with the Vikings wide receiver core in question, you don't want McCarthy throwing to Lucky Jackson or Thayer Thomas or Tim Jones as wide receiver 2, unless they go out and sign someone. But with that said, McCarthy is a baby. He's strapped up in the car seat. And the Vikings offense is going to have to carry their offense wherever it wants to go. With that said, if McCarthy isn't able to make simple throws, if he isn't able to show that handling a small responsibility is going to work, then he certainly isn't able to take on more of the load in the future. So, although McCarthy isn't going to be asked to do much because he's in the baby phase, we need to still analyze and examine how McCarthy looks in this baby phase. Because if he performs poorly, well, he certainly isn't ready to crawl in the Vikings offense, and he certainly isn't ready to run or even to move up to a booster seat or even to remove the car seat in general and drive the car himself. So McCarthy, what needs to happen is he needs to pass these series of tests within the Vikings offense in the regular season. And if he can't pass this first test versus Chicago, when he's going to be asked to do very, very, very limited things, then the Vikings have a problem at their quarterback position. If he can't pass the baby test in the first 3 weeks of the season versus Chicago versus Cincinnati and versus Atlanta, are those the first 3 weeks of the season for the Vikings? Anyone know that off the top of their head? Comment below if you know it on the top of your head. ESPN's loading slow as you know what. Okay. I see how it is. Ridiculous. Full power. Unreal. Unbelievable. Can't get the Vikings schedule. Preseason. I don't want the preseason. Bears, Falcons, Bengals. Let's go! Yes! So, my overall point still holds true. If McCarthy can't pass this baby face within the Vikings offensive scheme, and because that's what he's going to be asked in his first season, in his first few games. One thing that I think is concerning is if the Vikings get down early versus Chicago, Atlanta, or Cincinnati, a question that is going to need to be answered by McCarthy and the Vikings offense is, can you come from behind? Can you hit it from the back? Because if you can't do that, if you're not able to practically put the team on your shoulders, okay, you're a first-year player, I think we'll have a little forgiveness for you. But are there Super Bowl winning teams that don't have quarterbacks that can't come from behind? Because that's a big question. You don't have your A game in every game. You need to find and utilize your skills and talents that you don't always utilize, that you don't always need. And Sam Darnold could do that. When the Vikings were down in the fourth quarter, Darnold led several game-winning drives in the second half of the season. The Vikings trusted Darnold's arm to carry them down the field. And maybe the Vikings don't need to be down big for McCarthy to come back, but down 3, fourth quarter, 2-minute drill, can McCarthy move the chains? Those are going to be the big questions. Because He isn't going to be asked to do much. But there will be moments where he will be. And if he can't deliver in those moments, and if he can't deliver in moments when he's asked to hardly do anything, well, there are going to be major questions answered early about McCarthy, because this is a progression stage. When you're a first-year starter, it's a progression thing. Can you handle limited responsibility? Can you handle being placed in a car seat and allowing the Vikings offense to run? And if you can't do that, well, certainly you can't handle more responsibility. So he's not literally a baby. He's not a baby because he's crying in practice. But in his progression toward being the Vikings franchise quarterback, hopefully, right now, McCarthy is in that baby phase. All right, let me tell you about Hochland Farms. Because Hochland Farm has the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. Contact Hochland Farms at 952-491-1541. 952-491-1541. It's financially responsible because you can get Hochland Farms beef for about $4 a pound. Steaks, chuck roasts, hamburger beef. You go to the store, it's $5 for hamburger beef and $9, $10 a pound for steak and chuck roast. Contact Hochland Farms. One set price for all their beef. And you know where it comes from. Grass-fed, 100% of it. Delicious, amazing, and your tummies will thank you. All right, one more thing I wanted to touch on real quick, because I was reminded by someone in my Twitter feed, the Vikings fan page. And on August 18th, they put out a picture of Brett Favre. And it said, on this day, 16 years ago, Brett Favre signed with the Vikings, which is incredible when you think about it. Because I think 16 years ago, 2009, there were still 4 preseason games. But if you pull up the Vikings schedule from 2009, I'm assuming that their games were still very early on in September. So if I pull up 2009, here we go. 2009, computer's loading now. Their first game was my birthday, September 13th, versus the Cleveland Browns, 134-20. Remember when Adrian Pierce swiped the shit out of that guy and went for a touchdown? Brett Favre signed with the Vikings August 18th, 16 years ago, on August 18th. He had less than a month to get ready for this game. Josh Dobbs had one of the most electric few weeks that was shocking and surprising. And he didn't even know the playbook. And he willed the Vikings to a win over the Atlanta Falcons. And the point that I kind of want to make is either you can play or you can't play. Okay? There's some of that involved. Sure, being prepared, having chemistry, having camaraderie, details matter in the grand scheme of things. But week to week, you can tell if a guy can play or not. It doesn't take much. Either you can play the game at a high level or you can't. And sure, being a part of early training camp practice matters, at least in the cohesiveness and the command and confidence aspect of things. But if you're confident and you have an arm and can utilize your arm, you can perform without much practice at all. I mean, August 18th, Favre signed. If you told me before that thing came out, what date do you think Favre signed? I would have said like July 29th. I would have said some random. August 18th, less than a month before the regular season starts, he's at the Vikings Winter Park. Helicopters are following him. Brad Childress is picking him up at the airport. The fact that it was August 18th is incredible to me. And it just points to the fact that either you can play or you can't. And some players have all of training camp and all of preseason and all of OTAs and all of mandatory OTAs and all of these off-season programs, and they still stink. Some players can show up August 18th, less than a month before the season starts, and they can take your team to the NFC Championship game. One throw away from being in the Super Bowl. So just something to think about as it pertains to the Vikings' current situation and other situations around the league too. Thanks for joining the show today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and like button below and follow button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Everyone, I hope you have a good day.